This is Dale Callahan. I just realized, I apologize for being delayed in here. I just realized I was talking and had not started the broadcast. So I've been talking to myself, which I try not to do too often. But I am showing most of you signing here in the broadcast. And we are getting started, and we're a little bit behind schedule. And we are just got it started. And if you can hear me, if you will post in the chat box. And there's a little bit of delay in doing this. So in the chat box on the side, I'm posting a note myself. And it should have posted to you in the chat box. And I am, well, let's see. Okay, I should be posting a hello message to you. But anyway, I'm looking for anyone that will tell me that you can hear me and you can see a slide. Let me tell you what you should be seeing. You should be seeing College Prep asking the right people the right questions. It should look like a lot like a chalkboard. And you should be able to hear me loud and clear. According to my broadcast system, that's what you're getting, and we are showing live. So again, apologize for the delay in getting started because I forgot to hit the go live button. But if some of you will post in the chat box, just so I know that we are getting some live results and that some of you can hear me, that will be just helpful. And also, if you'll post what city you are in, because I know most of us are in the United States here. I'm not sure that that's all of us, but it's always interesting to see what city people are in that they're posting to. Okay, and I was just informed that the chat was turned off. So again, technical difficulty. Now try to chat. So I apologize. This is I'm on a new webinar system, and this is they've changed a little bit. So hello to those of you that are posting now. I'll see if I can't do several other mistakes before the end of this today. You would think that obviously as an engineer, maybe I need some more engineer training. So thank you so much for those of you posting where you are from. We are from Texas. We are from Indiana. We're from California. Thank you so much. And boy, it sure is great to hear some people's voices, even though I'm not really hearing your voices, but that's okay. All right, let me talk about here. By the way, here's some ways to contact me. These are probably the best ways: email and Facebook at Ask Dr. Callahan or Dale Callahan. Great ways to ask questions to us from this information. And the nice thing about the Ask Dr. Callahan Facebook one is other people look at that one besides me. I'm not the best Facebook person in the world. So I am Dale Callahan. And let me tell you a little bit about what I am, what I'm doing, because this is relative to what we are doing here. I'm the founder of Ask Dr. Callahan, which is a homeschool. We are college prep material. It's a business we accidentally founded. I will say we provide homeschool, high school math prep. It's a business we accidentally got into because as we were homeschooling our kids, we did not, and I'm an engineering faculty member, as you see down at the bottom, but we did not get a lot of great warm and fuzzy from the math that we were doing. So we kind of started to seek out some stuff that is going on, some better math products. And we found out in the high school world for homeschool, there wasn't a lot of good stuff. And I'm saying that not disparagingly to companies out there, but let's just face it. It just was not college prep, and it was not suitable to stuff that we had going on inside of what's going on in the School of Engineering. So let me just stop and I'll just show you, because people are always on webinars and they want to know are you real people? Are you recorded? And nope, here we are. I am here in my office, and so we're glad to be with you today. So this is live, and I'm going to go back to the screen because that's what we're going to be talking about here most of the time. Awesome. Okay, so what I'm, you will also find a lot of content here that at DaleCallahan.com and at the School of Engineering, University of Alabama. Now, the reason I'm telling you all of these things is because I've spent a great amount of time over the last couple of years working with industry people, working with parents. Let's just start at the parent level. As a owner, as the people who talk to a lot of parents, especially a lot of moms and dads, or a lot of moms around the country, mostly around the United States, we talk to moms all the time in our Ask Dr. Callahan business. And it's no longer talking about math. They're talking about their concerns about the future, about college. And we hear a lot of things that is just plain out bad advice that they're getting. My university work and the work on my blog, which is dalecallahan.com, and the podcast that I do off of that is really heavily related more to the professional. And this is why this matters to you, moms and dads, or if you're a pre-college or a college student. We work with professionals who constantly come back to us and say, boy, I wish I would have known this when I was in college. I chose a career. I'm successful monetarily. It's working, but I'm unfulfilled. I'm in the wrong spot. I don't know how I got here, and I don't know how to move out. So that's the kind of things that we're finding out that's going on. So that's a perspective of why I am doing this. So if you have any questions about this, here's how I'm going to run this. This is a webinar. It will be recorded. You will get the link to it. But the questions, obviously, the best way to ask questions is probably right here live. I'll probably wait kind of toward the end to try to deal with most of those questions. And obviously, you can reach us on the end on Facebook or email us directly. So here's the why. Again, I'm finding a lot of parents have poor advice, what I consider poor advice. Now, let me tell you what that means. I consider it a poor investment. I'm a business person. I'm an entrepreneur. I train entrepreneurs. We spin off companies. We work with homeschoolers. I work with universities. I work with deans and academics, and I'm living in these different worlds and seeing a lot of different perspectives. And I see a lot of miscommunication and misinformation that's out there. Many parents are confused and totally overwhelmed by what to do in college. And I just got emails just the other day that said, I just am totally overwhelmed, don't know where to turn. And this was from a mom who actually has had two of their kids go through college, and they just still are lost in the system. So there's a high cost and a high future cost of college. And obviously we know, and I'm not going to share with you the details of the cost of college. I think you guys get that. Look, I work at a university. I can promise you one thing about the cost of college. It will always go up. We are an embedded system of things that are looking out for, I would like to say we're looking out for everyone, but we're looking out for ourselves, and we think we do a pretty good job. Sometimes we're wrong, but the cost will go up, and it's going to continue to go up. So with all that said, where do we go to get good advice? And I'm going to give you 3 different places to get good advice, and I'm going to kind of talk about some of our perspectives. Your own personal logic through industry. How do you get advice through industry and for the people out there doing stuff, and specific departments in college? I want to talk about how do you drill in to the truth. Okay, so here's where some questionable sources of information that I hear all of the time. People are getting and giving advice, especially in the homeschool community, and they don't really know what they're talking about. There are many people who are given advice that have never had a child go through college. They have never experienced it, and they're speaking with great authority. Or maybe they've put somebody through one college path, but they're speaking with great authority about what the college wants. And I listen to them, and I'm sitting in the university and thinking that is just not the truth. So we see a lot of people that are speaking with as experts that are not necessarily experts, and they're reporting sometimes on what they've heard and what they're seeing. And here's the most dangerous person to get advice from is those people who are selling you degrees. I'm not saying their information is bad all the time, but it's very often incorrect or not the full truth. Here's some common planning advice that I hear. You need to really prep for college and career since birth. I mean, really, I see tons of people who are like, if you don't get into the right kindergarten, and we joke about this, we make movies about this, right? You know, if you don't get into the right kindergarten, you won't get into the right school, you won't get into the right college, you'll have a terrible career. We joke about it because it's real. It is very serious and real. And I've met and talked to many very stressed out parents who, even as they say those words, they know there's a lie in there. And by the way, that is a total lie. You need to have strong grades and strong extracurricular activities to get into college. You need to have a degree from a prestigious school. Here's things that we hear, that we say, that we do. So let me just talk about, how do we go through this? How do we process this? How do we process this as parents? So I always start with your own logic. We're all smarter than this, I would say. Refuse to bow down to the idols of the university. I mean, that's, you know, I'm a Christian, so I understand what, from a Christian's perspective, is an idol is anything we worship higher than God. Now, you may not be a Christian, you may not do that, but still, I think you understand what an idol is. What we're really worshiping is not a university in our culture. What we are really worshiping is success. And we think, and we have been sold on the bill of goods, that the university holds the key to your kids' success. We believe it. Now, you may logically not believe that, but you're so caught up in culture, it's very difficult for you as a parent to step away from that. Because even if you don't believe that, your friends believe that. Your parents believe that of their grandchildren you're raising. Your sisters and brothers believe that. So if you make a statement, anything different than I'm sending them to university, I'm preparing them for university, I'm preparing them to do all the best that they can at the university, then you're looked at as a less than qualified parent. I know. I mean, I am in this. I teach this. I speak on this subject constantly. And yet our family members put pressure on us and they question us. And we feel the heat. It hurts. And it's a very difficult thing to do. But you just have to stop and refuse. Use logic. Let me just make this statement that I make all of the time. Education is really critically important. However, universities do not own the education. They are a single path to education. Okay, but education is important. So people always say, well, you're downing education if we make a statement like that. No, absolutely not. We're very big on education, but it comes in all kinds of paths, and we'll talk about some of those. And so we want to question some of the data and assumptions. So let me throw out one of these pieces of data we see all of the time. And I'm putting in front of you the Bureau of Labor Statistics, what comes from one of their surveys they do. And it shows, and you guys have seen this hundreds of times, and they map it in different ways. And this is the 2013 data. Now, you see in here a couple of things. If you look at the right-hand side, the higher degree you get, the more money you make. And the higher degree you get, the less chance you're going to be unemployed. That's the obvious case that comes out of this data. I mean, and you see at the bottom, the professional degree at the top includes lawyers, physicians, surgeons, and dentists, things like that. Now, so when I look at this data and it's shared, this is the college and university's ticket, and they've been putting this data in front of your face for years. And it's so much that it's understood, it's believed. But you know, the data is real. There's no question about the data. I'm not questioning the Bureau of Labor Statistics. I can question how they do their surveys. And if you look a little deeper, what questions are they asking? You can get some clues, but I'm not questioning the data. I'm questioning the assumptions that we make from the data. For instance, if you look at the top, the unemployment and earnings for workers 25 and older by educational attainment, that's what the chart is. Earnings are for full-time wage and salary earners. Okay, so just understand that's the data and it's what it is. Let's talk a little bit about what it means. The first thing I notice here is what's assumed from the data. Those at the lower end are just as driven at the top end. Let me go back to that. So if I look at the bottom, the less than a high school diploma and a high school graduate, I'm assuming those people are just as driven as people who have master's degrees, professional degrees, and doctoral degrees, and heck, for that matter, bachelor's degrees or associate degrees. I'm assuming that the data is not only that the people are the same. And you know, in a scientific test, we know the variables, you can only have one variable. And what's being presented here is the variable is the education. But the truth is, in our culture, everybody believes that you need a higher education. And so if you are a driven teenager, male or female, or your parents that are trying to drive your teenager, you push them towards college. And let's face it, some in the two bottom categories, high school graduates, less than high school graduates, are from homes that don't have the best home life. They're coming from poverty often. They're coming from kids who are troubled. I'm not saying all, but much of the data is coming from that. And so you're seeing some people with some college degrees. So there's all kinds, and that's just one of the assumptions here that's out of this data. So we're assuming college made the difference. And I can make a case that some of that is true based upon my experience with industry people. But let me just go back and look over here. Notice the other thing it says at the very top, earnings for full-time wage and salary earners. I know people that if you called them and you said, I'm the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and I know many, many people in this category, and said, do you have a full-time job? Their answer would be no. Their answer would be no. Therefore, they don't qualify to be on this survey. However, they out-earn everyone on this survey. Let me say that again. I know lots and lots of people who out-earn every single person on this survey, but they don't even qualify to be in the survey because they don't consider themselves full-time in what they're doing, and they wouldn't answer the question. Because what they're surveying here is JOBs, jobs. They're surveying people with jobs, not necessarily business owners and other things of the sort. Now, notice something else here that shocks me a little bit. I guess it shouldn't. If you sum up 17,000, the top, or 1,700, if you sum up $1,700 a month, a week, over a year, the top earners here are earning under $100,000 per year on average, right? These are averages. Okay, let me say that again. So that's that last point there. All of these average salaries, no matter if you have a PhD or nothing, is under $100,000 per year. Now let me just $80,000, $90,000 a year that some of these people are making here. Yeah, it's awesome money, but it's also very, very limited. It's very limited from the lots of things that are going on out there. Okay, so my point here is, as you're looking at data like this, look, just as a parent, as an intellectual person, as people that you weren't born yesterday, what's statistics have a way of of lying to us, and people tend to pull data out of statistics, and they have all kinds of meanings. So be real careful what you assume here. It's not totally unusual for us to run into somebody who's at the lower tier of this. They have a high school. I ran into somebody just the other day. He is a high school graduate. He was going to take a position as a turf manager because he has experience. Now, this is a kid in his 20s with 2 children. He was going to take a job as a turf manager at a university, and he was going to be making somewhere around $40,000 per year. He's not the highest paid person in the world. He has a business on the side to compensate for what he called a low salary. But he was telling me, he says, people have gone to school and gotten 4-year degrees in turf management, and they're coming back to get the job that I've got, but I have a degree. I don't have a degree and they do, but I have experience, and so I've got the job. I know lots of other, so he's actually going to be he's going to be out earning them, and they have a college degree. Some of them are working for him, and he has the high school degree. So industry goes more on experience. We'll talk about that in just a minute. Let me just go to the other logic. College is a business, and they want customers. Okay. I am at a university, and let me just tell you, if you think for 1 minute, if you show up there with a wad of money in your hand, ready to spend it, and you can make a case that your son or daughter is somewhat qualified to be in our program, you better believe you have our attention. I'm not saying we put anybody in a classroom for anything or it's all about money, but let me just tell you, as one dean of prestigious school was commenting, he said, it's all about butts in the seat. That's what they measure, because when you put a kid in a seat, you are putting dollars in the department's budget. So as a university, as a college, we are businesses, and you have to understand this. We are businesses, and you are the customers. And the competition is fierce, and I mean fierce, in the university world, because we're now seeing people who are not colleges and universities compete for our business, and it's fierce. So let me just make this statement that I think you probably logically know. There's somewhere your son or daughter can get a degree. I don't care if they have an ACT score of 10. They can get a degree from somewhere. They can get education at a college level somewhere. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense to you. We also know that degrees, I think logically, that degrees are not why people hire. Have you checked for instance, how many of you have hired people? Because remember, let me make this statement. All of you hire people. You all hire plumbers. You all hire mechanics. You all hire yard care. You all hire housekeepers. How many of you ever check and if you'll just kind of post in there just for the fun of it, how many of you have ever checked any of these people's credentials as you hire and as you go spend money for people who are coming in working on in your houses, your cars? Your house and your car are some pretty darn expensive things. Are you credentialing them? Are you making sure that they're credentialed and qualified to work on and serve you? And I'm just curious, how many of you just say, yes, I do check them out, or no, I don't? I mean, that's just would be interesting to see how many of you do that. Now, so we'll give a minute to get a few answers here, because I know that we have a little bit of a delay here. So as I'm looking at that. Okay. Now, while we're waiting on that, Now, I realize what some of you are thinking. Well, Dale, that's kind of a goofy statement. Why, do I really want to credential a plumber? Do I really want to credential a yard care person? Do I really want to do that? And some of you are saying, yes, sometimes you do. But my point is, you're spending a lot of money. These are things that you care a lot about, and are you checking them out? So let me throw this one at you. Let's think about these people. Do you ever check their credentials on these people? Whoops, let me go back to my screen. On these people. Your doctor, your dentist, your lawyer, your accountant. And what I mean is, do you know if these people have degrees in doing what they're doing? Have you ever checked them out? A lot of doctors and dentists have a degree hanging on the wall, but have you validated it? Have you really checked? And so for those of you that have not validated, again, give me the yes or no. Yes, we'll say on doctors. I'll just say that's kind of the critical one to most of us. Have you validated your doctor's credentials? Yes or no? And some of you are saying we've done that. And I'm going to say that in some cases, we've probably done this more, but let me just tell you the average. Most of us buy these services in a little bit different way. Because what these guys have is they have things hanging on the wall, and typically your lawyer, your accountant, everybody's the same, and they have them hanging on the wall, but how have you checked them out? Have you called for a reference back to the university? And when we hire people, this is what we think that they're doing. They're calling back for a reference to the university. Did this person really get the degree? They're really and truly this is what I call validation. This is what employers consider validation. We're validating the degree is real. It's not just on a resume. It's not just a thing on a wall. How do you know that these things are real? And a lot of people not. Now, if I'm going for a, very, very specialty service, or a very specialty, serious medical issue, I might do this. But what most people tell me is, they'll know what I do is I go by references. And some of you are saying that even on your plumbers and lawn care. We go by what the world says about these people. This doctor, you can trust him because of X, or because of Y. This accountant has done wonderful things for me. Now, by the way, I'm not suggesting any of these people who are operating without their credentials. I'm just saying, as a culture, we don't put as near as much value on degrees and credentials as we do on experience, right? We do based upon recommendations from other people. Now, I say all that to say that's how we hire people. Generally speaking, that's how we hire people. And that means that's how most hiring is going on. Industry is really no different. Degrees, as a matter of fact, if you talk to most companies, and I spend a tremendous amount of time in the offices of CIOs, of founders and entrepreneurs, and people that are working with companies that are hiring. They're on our board. They're in my faculty that work for me at the university, and they're coming from industry. And I'll ask them these questions, how important is the degree? What is it? What does the degree mean? Would you hire somebody without a degree? And this is what it comes down to. Their degrees are a filter, because a large corporation, if they put out and said, hey, we're hiring 50 people, or let's just say we have a position open, just a single position, what they will often do is put these wild credentials down. We need a degree in this and this and this and so many years experience. What they're trying to do is knock it down from 1,000 applicants to 100, because it's just serious human resources overwhelm. And it's a filter. They call it a job requirement, but really it's a filter. Because in a large corporation, it's insane. So when I ask these guys, would you hire somebody without a degree? Their answer is yeah. you give me one guy has told me just recently, he said, and this is a very technical company, he says, Dale, this is the truth. He said the degree really doesn't matter. He says, you give me somebody that's got drive and motivation and can get on Google and figure it out, and I will hire them. This was a very technical company that says this. Right. I talked to another guy the other day that he is the quality manager of a plant. So he's got engineers working for him and he has no college experience. And I asked him, how did you get there? How did you get to where you are? And he said, well, I started out sweeping the floors and then I was motivated and they hired me. They put me over here and now I'm over here. And this is a fairly young guy. He's not, he's not 50 years old. I don't even think he's 30. But now he's over this operation and he has no college experience. He just had the desire to do the work. And now I'm saying all this is we logically know this is true, right? We know that these things are true statements. And I'm looking back at the comments, and Andrea, yeah, you're saying if a doctor is in a network or company, you guess and you think somebody would check out before they hire them. Yeah, you would. You're kind of hoping in the system. And that's what we do. We hope in the system. And I think that's by the way, I think that's fair. I'm not knocking anybody for not checking anything out. I think it's fair because that's the economy we work in. If a doctor or an engineer or an accountant or anybody delivers poor service, they go away very quickly. We know that. Okay, so let me throw one of the. I'm just going on your own logic. Let me just go on under the one other piece of logic that we have, and this is the logic I see used very poorly by parents and by students. We call this ROI is what we call return on investment. That's probably some of you know about that. So a $20,000 invested for a $40,000 annual salary is a good return on investment. I invested $20,000 in a college degree. My son or daughter has a $40,000 a year job. That's okay. That's a good investment. I invest $120,000 for a degree that pays $40,000 salary. I'm sorry. That is what I would call poor money management. Now you may argue with the numbers over here with me, but we do business evaluations, we do money investing, and that's really when you're getting a college degree, you are investing money for the future, and you're investing a lot of money. And I see all the time, and any of you that are fans of Dave Ramsey, just listen to his radio show. Sometime during the hour that day, somebody's going to call up with a student loan of $120,000 or some big fat student loan, and they're going to have a $40,000 salary or $30,000 or even a $50,000. He's going to say, well, that was kind of a dumb decision, wasn't it? That you are in debt that much for that much of a return. It's just not a good investment. You have to also consider the years invested, the time invested, and upward mobility and all of these things. And again, as I tell you that the average salary of all these people that showed back on that chart is $100,000 or less. Now, so if you're making over $100,000 in your household, consider yourself blessed. You are wealthy. You're very wealthy. That you've gotten there, and the college may have been a stepping stone to you, but it's not. I will say this: most people I know who are making over that are not in corporations. They are not in jobs, jobs. As a friend of mine says, that stands for just over broke. They're not in a job of the formal sense. And I don't even know if they have degrees, and I'm assuming some of them do, but they're making considerable amounts of money enjoying what they do, which is that last statement here. You've got to consider am I going to enjoy the work I'm heading into? Now, okay, so I'm talking all here about logic. So that's the last slide here about logic. What I'm asking you to do, and you and your sons and your daughters, or you and your parents, depending on who's listening here, is to think logically. What is it that makes sense. Does it make sense of what I'm doing to plan for college? That's what we're asking you to do, to think about. So if you got any comments or questions, we'll throw them up there. I'm really interested in kind of hearing your feedback and hearing what you say. Next, we want to talk about industry realities, because your logic, hopefully your logic is logical. By the way, does it make sense? I mean, does it make sense to you? And interested in your feedback. Does it make sense to you that we're asking about your logic? Does my logic make sense to you? You want to argue with any of my numbers? I mean, obviously you may have different points of view, but my points of view are just coming from just raw experience. So let me talk about one other point of view here. Industry realities. Now, okay, I'm switching gears now. I'm stepping out in the world of industry. I'm stepping out as many of you are in industry, or you have been in industry, or you are maybe, you're a mom or a dad who's going back into industry, one or the other. You've got industry experience, real world experience, but we're preparing our sons and daughters for industry, to be out in the world to make money. Whether even if it's a mission field, or if it's working as a doctor or a lawyer or a large corporation entrepreneur, I call all of that industry. Now, here's the deal. The degree only matters in their very first job. It really doesn't matter so much after that, because usually what we're looking for immediately after that is experience. I'm looking for experience. I know when we qualify, even at the university, even when we hire people at the university, we almost forget. Now understand, at a university, when we hire people, we have to, because of credentialing and because of accreditation and all this kind of craziness that we go through, we are required to hire people that have academic credentials, college degrees, and all this kind of stuff. But we almost forget to do that. We have to be reminded to go do that. Does this person have the academic credentials to be here? Because what I'm always hiring on is experience. I'm bringing in faculty members who have years of industry experience and things. And I remember even when I went to the university the first time, coming from industry, they didn't really know my academic background, nor do they really care, because it really doesn't matter. By the way, which college rarely matters. Now, it feels really good, I think, and I can't speak to myself, so I'm going to just assume if I had a Harvard MBA or had a degree from Harvard or Yale, that would be really cool to say. It would feel really great to say that. But, it doesn't really matter when you look at average salaries. It doesn't matter. I know plenty of people with Harvard, Yale, MIT type degrees who are working for people, who are employed by people who have degrees from nice little state colleges. The degree doesn't necessarily, where the college is does not necessarily matter. Again, a Dave Ramsey thing, if you've got just boatloads of cash sitting around, or you've got a scholarship and you can go anywhere you want, knock yourself out, go for it. But if you're going in debt to go to a college that cost you $120,000, like a friend of mine did, and when you drove past all the colleges you could have done for $20,000, you're just not a very good steward of your money to do that. That's just not a very good decision to make. That's how industry looks at it too. Industry just does not value a degree as much as the university does. So I'm gonna jump over to some questions in just a minute. But if you here's a statement. This comes from College Plus, which is, if you don't know about College Plus, is a really cool alternative for college. But this is a very interesting slide. I'm having this discussion with the dean of engineering of our university just the other day. Notice what this slide says, because remember, I'm talking about you getting advice. Academic officers, so what we mean is deans, provosts, presidents of universities. How effective are they at preparing kids for the workforce. If you ask people in academia, that blue means over on that left-hand side means they feel very strongly they're doing an awesome job. They feel very strongly. But look at what the business leaders think. They're not so sure. They're not so sure. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say that 33% over here in the blue, many of them is just because, I mean, isn't it kind of bad to say I don't value degrees when you spend all that time and money on your own degree? I mean, come on. You know, a lot of them is just personal bias. I sat in the chief information officer well, we won't mention the company, but I'd sat in his office the other day and we were chatting about how valuable the degree is from the university. And he just looked at me and said, look, Dale, you don't get it. He said, we just don't put a lot of value on that stuff. Now he's a CIO of a publicly traded company that has lots and lots of staff, and so in a fairly technical organization. And he said, the value is not there. Now I'm not disparaging one university or one degree over another. I don't think he was. He was just like, from my perspective, when I hire people, it just doesn't really matter that much. And when I talk to industry guys, and I'm telling this all the time, because who do academic people listen to? They're busy. They hang out with other academic people. So academic presidents and deans hang out with academic presidents and deans. Okay, so they're not necessarily getting the best information. They'll tell you they are, but this figure is from real data, and it will tell you that's not the case. All right, so let's look at well, we looked at that. So this is the last group of people I like to get advice from. The last group of people I like to get advice from is people who I like to say they're living the dream. And if you were on our last webinar, we talked about this a lot, but I like to search out other people doing what I would love to be doing. So if I'm a high school senior or a high school junior, or if I'm pre-college, here's what I want to do. Remember, I'm looking for advice for college. I want to know, what do they recommend? How did they get started? If I want to be a dentist, I don't really want to go to the dental school and get their view. I want to go to dentists that I respect, that I feel comfortable with, that I think are running an awesome business, and find out, hey, I know I got to go to dental school. Where would you recommend me go? And what should I do? If I want to be a vice president of a company, of a power company, for instance, I would want to go talk to that person. If I want to be a graphic designer, I want to talk to people doing it. I had a friend of mine do this the other day. His son wanted to be, actually a year ago, not the other day, but his son wanted to be a what we call a user interface designer, somewhere between writing software and writing the user interface for like your Mac and your iPhones and your computers, the things that the user sees. Now, that may not mean anything to you, but he said, I got one of the guys that's top in the nation and that happened to be in my town, and we sat down and had lunch with him to ask my son. I wanted him to tell my son where to go to college. And he said, and he looked across the table and he said, man, don't waste your time. He says, you can either go to college in one thing, you can go to college computer science, and it's going to be way too technical, or you can go to college in arts and they don't get it. He says the huge demand, which there is a huge demand, the huge demand for user interface designers is somewhere in the middle, and the colleges haven't caught up to it yet. And the ones that are claiming to, he said, they're just not there. Now, my friend Dennis, he was very disappointed with this because he wanted to get his son into college. He said, but his son didn't. His son has now gone off and started doing this, and his son is making over $100,000 per year, right? He's above this earning power already, and he hasn't gone to college. So, you get the advice from people who are already out there, not people who are trying to sell you something. Many of the highest earners I know, again, I have no idea about their degree. And what they're doing. All right, so let me look real quick. So I got one other thoughts for advice, but I'm gonna get very specific about how you can get some advice inside the university. I'm gonna look real quickly at the questions and then kind of come back to that, and maybe some of my opinions on some of this and what I think you should do. I do have an opinion, and you can just judge it for whatever you want it to be, but I'll tell you that in a minute. So let me kind of come back through here and look at some of the questions. And looks like you guys are from all over. I'm seeing where some of you are posting where you're from. Awesome. And let me say okay. All right, Sherry is saying, what about a community college, then transferring to a four-year college that's looking to be a more affordable option, debt-free? I love that, debt-free, absolutely. But with a high ACT score, we're having a little trouble accepting that route. And I think what you mean is he qualifies for, or he or she qualifies for something much bigger than the community college. Let me just tell you from the university perspective what we're doing. The four-year university, we are partnering over and over and over and over again with community colleges. We're not quite there yet. Some schools are doing a much better job than others. But the conversation we were having just the other day was, how do we partner with these two-year schools? Because it costs a lot for us to deliver education. It just does. It costs a lot. There's embedded costs. We're doing a lot of stupid stuff with money. Let's not joke about that. I mean, that's real. But we know that parents and people are getting wiser about money. So what we're looking at is, how can we just go form partnerships with these community colleges, with these two-year institutions, to do, in our case, pre-engineering type stuff, to get them in engineering. And some of our med schools have done the same thing to kind of pull that around. So I think it's an awesome option. The only thing the AACT score really buys you is scholarship money. Almost all scholarship dollars come through the ACT or the SAT, and probably more the ACT now. But they come through that. And if your ACT is big enough to get you scholarship money, and shop that, talk to schools, then awesome. If it's not big enough for that, I wouldn't worry about it. I would move on with the most economically viable plan. Now, I would get inside, and we'll talk about this in just a minute. I would get inside and talk to the universities that they want to go to. And we'll talk about how to do that in just a minute. But yeah, I think going that route, not only is that smart for you, I mean, it's smart to explore at no other issue. My son has Jan saying my son has a pretty good SAT score, but we chose a satellite campus in Penn State so he could commute. They want him to stay there for 4 years instead of transferring to the main campus. And we are finding that they are being very good at offering scholarships to encourage him to stay at the satellite campus for 4 years. This is greatly helping us financially. That's really interesting. And I'm guessing, Jan, I'm just maybe guessing that your son may want to go to the big campus. We hear a lot of people talk about, we want our kids to have a college experience. And sometimes the satellite campuses do an excellent job of that. But understand, every decision a university makes is about money. Every decision we make is about money. And now, am I saying that we're not trying to do an excellent job? I think most of the universities are trying to do an excellent job. However, remember that slide? A lot of them are out of touch, so they don't really know what an excellent job means. But everything comes down to money. Why are they incentivizing you to stay at that satellite campus? Maybe they're trying to build up that satellite campus. I don't know what their reasons are. There could be all kind of financial reasons. But understand, when they give you scholarships, it's marketing dollars. And so what they may be doing is trying to increase increase the average SAT score at that satellite campus. Therefore, it helps them in accreditation. I mean, there's all kinds of underneath issues. They may be encouraging that, but who cares? I mean, if they're helping you out, wonderful. Okay, actually, he doesn't want to go to main campus. Obviously, awesome. That's probably a good. You know, when you go to these huge campuses, it looks very cool, but then you're one kid and 200 and satellite campuses are usually a good deal. Okay, let's see. I think we're kind of caught up there. Let me hit this other issue. All right, here's what I would do. I mean, I'm going to assume that we think that it's a good idea maybe to go to college. And most parents that we talk to, hey, we're looking at going to college and we're getting advice. What I don't want to do is just call up the main university or go to the recruiting fair and listen to what they say, because usually you're talking to somebody in the recruiting arm of the university. Dive into the department. Every department. Now, so what we usually see in a university is a university or college is the main thing, and then they're broken, and then we call things different things. But typically we break those up into schools. So like our university has a school of engineering, a school of business, a school of medicine. So, and those are pretty much independent operating schools. And then like in engineering, we have electrical, we have computer, we have, mechanical, we have different departments. And each department operates very independently, depending on how you're set up. So you want to drill down and get into the department, because that a department may have specific requirements or specific opportunities that the university as a whole doesn't know about. And that's very often the case. Universities are terrible about internal communication. One hand doesn't know what the other's doing. You want to drill down and get to where you want to go. So what you want to do is go right into the detail. You want to go right into the heart of the matter and find it. I'll show you an example of how I might do that in a minute at a university. So again, you want to treat this as a very expensive investment. University, and what's the university stuff? By the way, if you search, you just take that one term I got here, best and worst paid college majors. Going back to that thing about investment, let me just tell you, the best is going to be anything in science and, well, most science and engineering. I think I've seen pharmacy up there. The worst paid is obviously, the liberal art type stuff. So if you're looking at investments, I might look at those kind of things. Now, some people dog me for that. And they say, well, Dale, you don't understand the value of liberal arts education. Well, I'm all for it. Go to the bookstore and buy books. You can go online and get education free if you're so motivated to learn all there is about French history or whatever you want to pick. You can get it free. It's all over the place. You don't need to pay a big fat university guy's salary, because the same university guy has probably got it on video somewhere. So you can get all of this information free of charge to get education. What you're looking at for the university is you're looking for that little diploma that says, I did it. That diploma then adds value, some credentialing to industry. So, be smart about it. Understand what it is. I think what you're going to see, and this is a prediction. I think some people already are doing this, but you're going to see a lot more people who are packaging educational opportunities that are not through the university. You want to learn about French history? We'll help you package that opportunity. And they're going to be for-profit companies that do that. And they're going to help you package that. You want to get as a matter of fact, I could do this in engineering right now. You want to know how to be an engineer. You don't really care about the degree and the certification. I'll package that education for you. I can find it. I can Google it. I can tell you what to take. I can give you all the courses to take. I can look over your shoulder, and you can have paid a fraction of what you pay even at a public university. And I can teach you what you need to know. And you're going to start seeing a lot of that come out very, very soon. Let's see, one other point here. this is kind of my view, is college is not required. I think you kind of see that already. Let me just say, I've taught at the undergraduate level. I'm not teaching at undergraduate level anymore, but I can tell you just in a few minutes in walking into a classroom of undergraduates who has work experience and who does not. I think your kids need to have some work experience, and the closer they can get to their field in some level, the better. Don't go into debt. I think many of you are probably already communicating that. So what's some good things to do? One of the best investments in university stuff is CLEP. As these courses or these tests are going to cost you a little over $100. And if your university accepts it, again, this is why you need to talk to your university. If they accept CLEP, many schools, universities, departments will accept up to 45 credit hours of CLEP. So that's, maybe $1,000 or so of CLEP investment. And that's a little over a year of college that you can CLEP out of. I know our university does, but not every university does this. It's the single best way to motivate and to get to CLEPing. As a matter of fact, College Plus that I talked about earlier, that's one of the things they will walk you through and highly encourage you to do that. AP courses are kind of your second best. AP courses, because you have to take a course, you kind of need to take a course and then you need to take the test. They tend to cost a little bit more and they can take a lot longer. I've seen people CLEP test, go in and just CLEP the test. They've just got enough experience and they can CLEP it within an hour or so, or they may spend a week or so studying up and CLEP it. Where the AP courses, it's actually a course. And I think your third investment there is dual credit. That we see a lot of people doing. And the reason I say that's third is because you're usually paying university rates. But again, some of these things may work better for some of you. You just kind of have to look at your individual situation and say, well, for my son or daughter, because of where we are and because of what we need to do, this works best. There's not necessarily a correct answer here, but I know many people will do this. But any way you can get college credit without having to pay the big fat college fee. I mean, we love to be paid money, but if you can get some of that college credit without having to pay that big fat fee, that's awesome. Now, there's obviously some benefits for not being on college. I'm not going to talk about that now, but it's a very dangerous environment for many. So let me hit some other questions, and I'm going to show you one other thing. Okay, Sherry saying my daughter, and I hope I'm pronouncing your name right, Sherry, but yeah, my daughter has completed 8 CLEPs and will do at least 2 more this summer. The state university here is limited to 18 hours. Awesome. So that, and that, by the way, that varies. Like some universities here in the state we're in take 0 CLEP, and then some of them take the maximum amount. And that just really varies. It really helps for you to kind of get a feel for where you're going and what you're doing and what kind of things you're going to do. Here's one other thing. I'm going to show you a demo of just kind of finding something. But here's my general view of a cost of what you should be doing. If you take 1/2, the cost of the university should be about 1/2 the annual starting salary. So in other words, if an engineering starting salary in your area is about $50,000, you should be able to pull off the degree for about 25. I think if you can do that, you've got a pretty good investment. And I think that's how I would look at college degrees, is I would just look at them as like you're buying a rental house or like you're buying a stock or something that's going to pay. Now I realize I'm not looking at long-term things, but when you can, and I realize that, hey, even if I'm making $25,000 over 10 years, it's a lot of money. Yeah, but I'm looking at a short-term investment, because after it only matters pretty quickly. There's just so many options for doing this that you might as well get a return on investment quickly. All right, let me flip over here if I can and just kind of show you and if you have any other questions, feel free to ask. I'm going to just pop open, if I can, well, obviously, there we go. Let me get you a screen up. I'm going to just show you how I might identify the right people to talk to. And I'm gonna just pick on a field that I know something about, and maybe this is cheating, but I'm going to look at, let me get my other screen up here. Whoops, did that backwards. All right, I'm going to look up engineering, and I'm going to look at Vanderbilt. If I think my son or daughter is heading to engineering at Vanderbilt, I want to just start searching on this term and saying, okay, here's what's going on. Here's the School of Engineering. These are the people I want to talk to. Do I want to talk to the major people at Vanderbilt? Yes. So first of all, I'll say Vanderbilt Engineering has a pretty good website. That's a little surprising. This right here is telling me, these little tabs right here are telling me their departments. Again, like I was saying, this is the School of Engineering. Notice this. So it's all under a dean, and these are departments. They're under department chairmen. So they've got civil, electrical, mechanical, and this looks like chemical and anyway, it's a bigger word than I want to say right now. So I want to find out. Let me pick on electrical. It's and I'm gonna just, since that's my background, but I'm gonna say I want to go here and click on electrical and computer engineering. I want to go to this department's website. So it's taking me now inside the department. Now, what I want to know is who is the chairman. I want to know who to start with, because I think that's probably your best place. And they're a pretty big department, it looks like. So I'm going to just look on their about page and see if they have what I think they have. A message from the chairman. I don't really care about his message so much. I care his name is Dan Fleetwood. So I bet if I go over here to people, or sometimes it's people, sometimes it's faculty. There's Daniel Fleetwood. I'm going to click on Dan Fleetwood. There he is. He's the chair of the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering and Computer Science. And gee, there is his email address. There is his phone number. And there's all the kind of things about how to get into contact with him. So if I'm looking at, my son or daughter's looking at him, they're looking at going into electrical engineering at Vanderbilt, I'm going to get on the phone or email this guy and say, we want to come talk to you. And let's get, because I want to get rid of any assumptions that I have about what it may be to go to electrical engineering. I want to know, not only does Vanderbilt take these, CLEP credits and all, what do you think about them? Because even if Vanderbilt loves CLEP, this guy may say, yeah, CLEP's fine, but we don't accept that in our department. And as a department, they sometimes will make those decisions. I know we used to, in engineering, we used to not take courses in calculus from community colleges. And the reason is because they just weren't up to par and they weren't ready. I don't know if we do today or not, because I don't do the undergraduate stuff. But how do you get that information? You go talk to him. Now, if Dan Fleetwood says, hey, I'm not the guy, you really need to talk to Sally. She's over all that kind of stuff. That's fine. But the point is, you're piercing inside the department and you get that direct information from the people who know what the heck's going on, and not just the people who are giving you the opinions. Okay. Now you've got, let me look at some other questions here. And it looks like there's just a few others. And do you mean 25,000 for the Andrea? I think hopefully I'm terrible at pronouncing names, but so hopefully I got that right. But do you mean 25,000 for their entire education? Yeah, I do. I mean, that's very doable. And again, what I was showing you was a rule of thumb. We have two kids who have college educations. We have two kids who do not. They're too young for that, or they haven't gotten there yet. By the way, too young for that's relative. We have one who's 14 who will probably be doing something with College Plus because he wants a college degree, I think. And at College Plus, they don't care when you start. I think they told us you've got to have algebra, you've got to have biology, and you got to have general literature. And once you know those things, you can start. And they work things so that there's something. But yes, I mean 25,000 for the entire degree. Again, these are rule of thumbs. Give or take. But what I'm getting at here is use some common sense about what works for you, what doesn't work for you. All right. I think we maybe we are running long on time because I kind of got us started late. I hope this was useful. I'm sorry about the clumsiness of getting started. We will be doing these webinars once a month at least. And by the way, if you have any other questions, throw them in there. I'm gonna kind of hang out here, but just to give you the closing point, we will be doing these webinars about once a month on various subjects. Most of it's going to be college prep if you type stuff, because that's where we get the most questions in our company. Let me drag over. No, let me not do that. That does not work. Let me just show you one other thing. Here's our website, at least our current website, and it's in a little bit of a flux. But we are offering, and it's not on this main website right now. Let's see. If you click on career, what we are beginning to offer is career and college planning. We're going to help you develop a plan for your son or daughter, or help them develop a plan. It's very much like what we're doing. We're expecting this release date. Now you can pre-buy this, but we're expecting the release date here. I'm asking for a lot of feedback from a lot of people about this, including you. So if you want to go there, you can go to AskDrCallahan.com and then click on career, and you can click on college career. Now we do some coaching one-on-one, that's right there. But what we're talking about is kind of a packaged course that we're going to be doing to kind of help you do this at home. I spend a tremendous amount of time with professional people who tell me, wow, we wish we would have done what you're teaching us now, not what I'm teaching them at the university now. And so what I'm doing is I'm going to be bringing some of that into this, and some of this common sense approach to develop a plan. So this is what we're looking at. If it's of interest to you, or if you think, hey, Dale, that sure would be nice if you covered this and this instead of the topics, hey, I would love to hear it. We are having some parents give us some thought and some feedback on what we're doing here. This is what we're thinking. And we're just trying to help. And we're being a little selfish here, because we spend a tremendous amount of time answering these questions on phone calls, and we're answering it to often stressed out moms, sometimes the dads, but it's usually the moms who are taking the brunt of this in the homeschool world. And if we could provide some tool, we just can't do this over a phone call, even an hour-long phone call. But if we can provide you some tools to help you do this, it would take a burden off of us, and we would feel like we were serving you better. And that's what we're trying to do here. So again, let me just say, if you want to get in touch with us, I'm going to leave you just with this slide. And that's my contact information. You can reach me directly at dale@dalecallahan.com. You can reach us at the two Facebook pages under Dale Callahan or Ask Dr. Callahan. Either one of those should work. So thank you so much for your time. I'm going to just hang around here and see if there's a question or two that I've missed. But other than that, we will wrap this up and carry on. And we will get an announcement out. It'll be about this time next month when we do another one of these webinars. And topic is not yet decided. So, hey, if you want to tell us what you want to hear about, shoot it to us. Just hitting, let me go through and see if there's any questions I've missed. I'm just going to go from the top down. Mary, you're asking, do you agree with Dave Ramsey about a student to work less than 20 hours while attending college? I think that's probably a reasonable number. You do want to consider it as you don't want to be insane about college and thinking it's all about what you're doing in the classroom, because it's not. but you also want them to be able to get out whatever they can get out. And some of what they can get out is networking with faculty members and doing some of those things. And if they're just running ragged, it can be tough to do. Now, I will say that to say that I have seen people in the college classroom, and I remember so clearly this one guy coming up to me who had 5 children. He was working a full-time job and taking 2 graduate classes, as I was teaching a graduate electrical engineering course at the time. And he was having no problem with it, because I remember some of the other students whining and complaining about the level of work they were doing. And here he is. He's got a family. He's got a wife. He's got a job, and it was working for him. But he was just good at balancing his time. So, but yeah, I think in general, you kind of want to do this. So thank you all so much for your feedback. Those of you giving us some feedback here, Andrea and Jan. And let's see. I think we've answered all of these other questions. And at least I think we've answered them. And if not, please shoot us an email and shoot us that via one of these contact information. Thank you guys so much for your time. And again, I apologize for the crazy startup. I'm going to jump back in here and answer one other question. I was going to tell you just to shoot me an email, but while I'm still broadcasting, I just happened to notice it came in. Callie, I think I'm pronouncing your name right. Obviously, I've proved I can't pronounce names. I'm a current college student who has some doubts about the college I'm in right now. Any advice and thoughts about transferring, changing majors, taking a year off, etc.? I'm seriously doubting whether a degree will be in my ultimate benefit. Awesome. It's awesome that you recognize that issue now. Congratulations for having that foresight. I will say this. If you will, here's what I would do, Callie, is if you will go to my website at dalecallahan.com. And it should, let me throw it up over here and just show you what I'm talking about. There's no charge for this. This is not a paid service or anything. It is part of what we do in that $39 thing. But if you go to our website, let me see if I'm broadcasting that right now. Okay, if you should see this website up here now. Oh, no wonder I'm got my screen's all crazy here. There we go. There, that looks more like it. If you go to the dalecallahan.com, you should see this thing over here, this free ebook, and it's called How to Find Your Calling. And this is the exercise that we use with people who have been out of school for years. I mean, so we're dealing with engineers, professionals, people at all levels. And we take them through this exercise. And this is the exercise many people say, I wish I would have done this when I was in college or in high school. And so I would download that. It's mostly a brainstorming exercise. We've learned some things about doing this. That's why we're doing the $39 thing, where some hangups are. But here's what I would do. I would download it. I would do these exercises. And most of it, like I said, is brainstorming. Shoot me an email. And and do that. And I'll tell you what I'll do is, if you're interested, if you want to shoot me an email and say, okay, here I've done it, and shoot me what you've got and email it. And then you want to find out what to do. I do a lot of coaching, but we'll offer just a free, we'll just get on Skype or Google Hangout or whatever makes sense. And we will just talk through your issues. We're not going to charge you for that. They're just, and just see if we can't help you develop a plan. Because that's really what you're asking is, and by the way, you're no different than the corporate engineer who's like sitting here saying, okay, I'm in my career. I got here. What do I do now? Before I got on this webinar today, I was on one of those phone calls. Somebody that's 35 years old, an engineer, very successful, and they're like, I feel totally unfulfilled. I need something. I don't know where to go now in my life. So that you can see that potential now is awesome. So yeah, if you'll do that, shoot me that email, and I'll be glad to see if we can't get in there and help you out. And looking to see if I have any other questions, and I think that's it. But again, I'm here. So I'm going to shut down the broadcast here in just a minute. So if I do, then I'm going to put this up here for just a second longer. If I can find it, my email address and all for contact information, and it should be right there.